Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. So for today, inshallah, I'm going to talk on the private defense of the body and of the property. We have already, I've already covered part of the topic of private defense of the body. So generally, private defense of the body is the right of private defense of the body is provided, is allowed by the penal code. So, so if let's say the a person is attacked, he is being attacked, so he is allowed to defend himself. Now the question is that, okay, a person is allowed to defend himself. So can a person go to the extent of killing the attacker? Now the question here is that, let's say someone attacked him. Someone attacked him, someone attacked his family member, for example. Can he kill that person? That is a question. So a person is not allowed to go to the extent of killing another person in exercising his right of private defense, except as provided under section 100 of the penal code. So let's look at section 100 of the penal code. According to section 100 of the penal code, the right of defense, when this is important, you have to understand this thing and listen carefully. When the right of private defense of the body, this is to the body, to the property under section 103, 103 of the penal code, to the body. When the right of private defense of the body extends to causing death. So only under these situations, under these circumstances, can a person go to the extent of killing another person in order to protect his body. The right of private defense of the body extends under the restrictions mentioned in the last proceeding to the voluntary causing of death or of any other harm to the assailant. If the offense which occasions the exercise of the right is of any of the following descriptions, the right of private defense of the body extends under the restrictions mentioned in the last proceeding. In the last proceeding, meaning except under section 99, to the voluntary of causing death. To the voluntary of causing death. To the voluntary of causing death, meaning that he can go under these situations, under these circumstances, the person exercising his right of private defense under the law may go to the extent of killing the assailant, may go to the extent of killing another person, can take the life of another person under the law, and that is allowed. Okay, let's look. Number one, A, such an assault as may reasonably cause the apprehension that death will otherwise be the consequence of such assault. Meaning that someone attacking him, someone attacked him, and he apprehends, he understands, or he foresees that if he doesn't stop that person, if he doesn't do anything to stop that person, he will die. For example, someone trying to attack us. For example, someone holding a parang. Let's say this is a parang. Someone holding a parang and then running towards him with that parang, running with that parang, as if he is trying to slash that person, slash the person. with a parang. So if he apprehends that if he doesn't do anything, if he doesn't stop that person, he will die. The parang will hit his face ke, his neck ke, and he will die as a result of such an attack. And this BA is similar to B. B, such an assault as may reasonably cause the apprehension that grievous hurt will otherwise be the consequence of such assault. Similar thing. Someone running to him, trying to attack him with a parang, for example, and if he doesn't stop that person, he will die. Or he will be grievously injured. That parang may hit his face and he may be grievously injured. Or may hit his arm, for example, and that his arm may be cut off, may be severed from his body. So that is grievous hurt. So if that, in those circumstances, in these two situations, the person exercising his right of private defense may go to the extent of killing the attacker, of killing the assailant. That is allowed under the law. What if that person is attacking him by merely using his fist, trying to knock him, for example? So if he may do whatever necessary to stop that person, he may even use a stick, for example, or kick that person, or using a chair to stop that person, whatever means necessary, but not to the extent of killing that person. Why? Because that it does not apprehend. He doesn't apprehend by if that person attacking him or attack him by using with bare hand. He doesn't apprehend that death or grievous hurt will result from that such an attack. So he can't go to the extent of killing the assailant or killing the attacker. Okay, these are the two situations. Now let's look at the third situation, where a person may go to the extent of killing another person. C, an assault with the intention of committing rape. Someone trying to rape her, or someone trying to rape his wife, someone trying to rape his sister, someone trying to rape his mother. So that is the situation. Let's say he comes home and then let's say he sees someone trying to rape his sister. That person is on his sister's body, for example, trying to rape his sister. And then he takes a parang and then slash onto that person, immediately killing that person. That is allowed under the law. There is no need for what they call the attacker to use a weapon. I mean, to the rapist, the person trying to rape. It's not necessary that the person trying to rape has any weapon with him, isn't it? Because it's not stated under paragraph C. If you look at paragraph B and A, yes, it is, even though it's not stated that he must use a weapon, but it's stated that death or grievous hurt. But it's not stated under paragraph C, meaning that if he sees someone trying to rape another person, and in trying to stop that person, he may do whatever necessary, including killing that person, because this is allowed under the law. An assault with the intention of committing rape. If you look at it here, the right of right defense of the body extends to the voluntarily causing of death or any other harm to the assailant if the offense in which occasions the exercise of the right is an assault with the intention of committing rape. Someone trying to rape her, or someone trying to rape his family member, or someone trying to rape a stranger. Because this, the right of defense of the body is not limited to himself or his family member. If you look at the provision of the penal code, every person has a right to defend his own body and the body of any other person. and the body of any other person. It's not limited to his family member. Not any the person of any other person that he has an interest in. Yeah, it's not stated there. Only the body of any other person, meaning that any person, even a stranger, against any offense affecting the human body. Rape is an offense affecting human body. So you may go to the extent of killing another person, even though the assailant, is attacking, or the person trying to rape a stranger. He's trying to stop a stranger from raping another stranger. That he is even allowed under the law to go to the extent of killing the attacker. Why is that so? Why is that so? Because the law says so. Because it's clearly stated under the law. And if the law says so, then that is the law. Okay, paragraph D. An assault with intention of gratifying unnatural lust. Natural lust, for example, someone trying to sodomize him, for example. Someone trying to force him to do unnatural sexual, homosexual, for example, or carnal intercourse against the order of nature, for example. So they go to the extent of killing that person. E, an assault with the intention of kidnapping or abducting. Someone trying to kidnap him, or someone trying to kidnap his son, for example. May go to the extent of killing the attacker, the kidnapper. F, an assault with the intention of wrongfully confining a person under circumstances which may reasonably cause him to apprehend that he will be unable to have recourse to the public authorities for his release. So this is quite similar to E, kan? He is confined. He is being confined. He is being put in confined place. He's not allowed. For example, he's put in a room whereby he may not be allowed to go out. So in that situation, he's confined to a place. He is being assaulted with the intention of confining him to a place where he may not he will be unable to go to the public authorities for his release. So that is the situation. For example, he's been kidnapped, and then he's been put in a room. For example, he wants to run away from the kidnapper. For example, he may go to the extent of killing the kidnapper. The person confining him. Okay, that's under section 100 of the Penal Code. Okay. That is under section 100 of the Penal Code. Okay. This is under section 100 of the Penal Code. If the offense does not fall under section 100, if the offense does not fall under section 100, the right of private defense only extends to cause any harm other than death. This is stated under section 101 of the Penal Code. Meaning that if let's say it doesn't fall under any one of these, it is not there is no apprehension of death, there is no apprehension of grievous hurt, he is not attacking with the intention of committing rape, it is not a kidnap case, it is not to gratify an unnatural loss, then the person attacked him, for example, and he, of course, he has the right of private defense, but not to the extent of causing death. But he may do whatever necessary in order to stop that person from harming him. For example, by kicking that person, by counter-attacking that person with a stick, for example, but not to the extent of killing the assailant. So the duration of the right of private defense is stated under section 102 of the Penal Code. The right of private defense commences as soon as a reasonable apprehension of danger to the body arises from an attempt or threat to commit the offense, though the offense may not have been committed, and it continues as long as such apprehension of danger to the body continues. For example, let's say someone trying to attack him with a parang, for example. He's running with a parang, and then he pull out his pistol, and then that person stop and throw away his parang. Once he has thrown away his parang, the danger to the body stop. So as long as it continues, the danger to his body continues, he has the right to defend himself. But once the danger has stopped, the right of defense of the body also stop. So as soon as there is a reasonable apprehension of danger to once that person pull up his hand and towards him with a parang, his right of defense of the body starts, because he apprehends that that person is about to attack him by using a parang, and it may cause him grievous hurt or death if he continues attacking him with that parang. So it continues as long as that danger continues. But once that danger stops, for example, that person throw away that parang, then the right of defense of the body also stop. The source of apprehension can be the weapon, for example, a parang, the manner of its use, the mental and physical attitude of the person, uttering the threat, I'm going to kill you with this parang, I'm going to kill you with this parang. So is that make him understand or apprehend that that person is going to attack him with the parang and his life is in danger. It is for the court to decide whether the violence threatened is sufficient to cause in the mind of the accused a reasonable apprehension of grievous injury. So it is it is for the court to decide. In R against Cumming, the accused saw the deceased armed with a spear pointing towards Dr. Middleton. In his mind, he thought the deceased intended to plunge the spear to Dr. Middleton. Hence, he fired the gun towards the deceased. It was held that he was not guilty for murder, as he was exercising the right of private defense of the body, even though it was not. If you look at this case, it was a mistake. That person was not trying to attack Dr. Middleton, but under the law, because he apprehended, what is important is that he apprehended that there was a danger to the body of Dr. Middleton, and because it was because it was what we call under paragraph A, because it was under paragraph A and B, under section 100, under paragraph A and B of section 100, he may go to the extent of killing that person under paragraph A and B. Apprehension that death, apprehension that grievous hurt. So the court held that he was allowed to go to the extent of killing the deceased. Another case, the case of Wong Tek Choi against the public prosecutor, the court held that in deciding whether or not there is apprehension of death or grievous hurt, it is always a question of fact to be decided upon the particular facts and circumstances of the case, such as the weapon being used, the weapon being used. For example, let's say it is a parang, for example. So if it is a parang, he may apprehend that there is a danger to his body, and that he may cause, if he doesn't stop that person, then he may die as a result of that attack. Okay. And then scope of the right. The right commences as soon as the apprehension of danger arises. Once that person start attacking him, trying to attack him, then the right of the to exercise his right of defense arises. The right starts. And it continues so long as the apprehension of danger to the body continues. The threat must be imminent and real, and the person must feel a reasonable apprehension of death or grievous hurt as a result of the assault contemplated on him. And then the case of public prosecutor against Yeo Kim Bok, the court held that when a person has assumed the threat is of a dangerous form, he is allowed to use his right to defend himself and pursues his defense a little further than to a perfectly cool bystander. Meaning that if someone trying to attack you, someone trying to attack a person, that person, let's say someone trying to attack A, then A will not, it's not that, he will be cool, okay, you trying to attack me, so now I will do whatever necessary in order to stop you. No, because he will be in panic. Someone, let's say an insane person, orang gila, trying to attack him with a parang, of course he will be scared. And adrenaline, they call it, will be high. So he will do whatever necessary in order to protect himself. For example, let's say he has a pistol, for example, he pull out his pistol and then immediately shoot at that person. So that is reasonable. We can't expect him to, because of that situation, he was in panic. We can't expect him to pull out his gun and then shoot into the air in order to warn that person, and then only shoot that person if that person doesn't stop. Because of the situation, when someone is being attacked, it's not, we can't expect him to act as a cool bystander. Bukan macam in the film, if you look at if you watch film, you may see that person is very cool. The hero is very cool. Someone trying to attack him is cool, but that is not the ordinary case. Unless if he is well trained, I do not know. If he is well trained, for example, he's a well-trained police officer, a well-trained soldier guy, that I do not know. But an ordinary person, of course, he will be in panic when someone trying to attack him. So we do not expect him to act as a cool bystander according to the law. The question is not whether there is an actual continuing danger, but whether there was a reasonable apprehension of danger. Whether there was a reasonable apprehension of danger. If there was a reasonable apprehension of danger, then he was allowed under the law to exercise his right of private defense. And if, let's say, the danger is up to, he may apprehend death or grievous hurt as a result of that attack, then he may go to the extent of killing the assailant. A person is not deprived of his right of private defense the moment the attack ceases, merely because the weapon used by the attacker has come to his possession. And this was held in the case of Musa bin Yusuf. Even though what is stated here is that, let's say they fight, the weapon was with the assailant, for example, and then after the fight, during the fight, he has got hold of the weapon, for example. According to Musa bin Yusuf, even though he has got hold of the weapon, if they were still fighting, if they were still struggling, it did not stop him from exercising his right of private defense of the body. So let's look at the case of Musa bin Yusuf. In Musa bin Yusuf, against the public prosecutor, the court held that the accused is entitled to secure his victory as long as the contest was still going on. He is not obliged to retreat, but may pursue his adversary till he is out of the danger. And if in a conflict between them, he killed the person. He killed the person. He killed the person. It is justifiable. If there was a reasonable apprehension of danger, of death or grievous hurt to himself, and in the process of protecting his body, he killed the other person, it is allowed under the law. In this case, the accused was acquitted. Although he managed to wrestle the knife from the deceased, even though he had got hold of the knife, and then used that knife to kill the victim, the court held that he was allowed in this case, because the danger was still there. That the attacker was still trying to get hold of the knife back. He was trying to get back the knife. So the court allowed him the defense under the law. Another case, the case of Tony Beliang against public prosecutor, the court held that a person who faced the danger to his person is not required to retreat or seek refuge before he is permitted to exercise his right of private defense. He is permitted to use all reasonable force to protect himself until he is free from danger. Another case, the case of Datuk Balwan Singh. This case was quite popular, if you look in 2003. This case was quite popular. It was an old man, quarrel with a young man. An old man, a rich old man, was quarreling with a young man when they collide, when they met with an accident with the young man. The young man was riding a motorcycle, and then he had an accident with Datuk Balwan Singh. And then he tried to attack Datuk Balwan Singh with a stick, and Datuk Balwan Singh killed him. Now the question was that whether he had a right of private defense to the extent of killing the assailant, because the assailant was not using a parang, he was merely using a stick, and whether he had the right to the extent of killing another person. The court ruled that, in Datuk Balwan Singh, the court ruled that the right of private defense commences as soon as there is a reasonable apprehension of danger to the body of a person. And this right continues for so long as the apprehension of danger to the body or life exists. Although no man can be expected to assess with scientific accuracy the precise amount of force that is necessary to defend himself from an attack, any retaliation in the exercise of it should not exceed what is reasonably necessary to avert the assailant's attack. So that is, when someone attack him, he can do whatever necessary in order to stop that person. But it must be reasonable when he trying to defend himself. He must do whatever necessary, but it must be reasonable, proportionate to the danger that was threatened to him. That threatened him. A man who is about to be attacked does not have to wait for his assailant to strike the blow first. It's not necessary to wait for that, because if he wait, then perhaps he will be injured. He did not wait till he is actually attacked or inflicted with injury in order to react. He is not obliged to run away. It's not necessary for him to run away. The law does not require the citizen to behave like a coward. If he is unable to escape, he may turn around and attack. So it's not necessary under the law, according to Datuk Balwan Singh. If someone trying to attack him, it is not necessary for him to run away. The law does not require him to run away. Yeah? Can do whatever necessary in order to stop that person. Yeah? And then another case, the case of Mui Ming Xian. In this case, the court acquitted the accused because there was a reasonable apprehension of danger to his life. They were struggling for the revolver during the fight, and he was cornered by the deceased, who was unarmed, who was not armed. The question which a court has to decide is whether, in all the circumstances of the case, the accused had reasonable apprehension that the deceased will cause his death or inflict grievous injury, grievous hurt to his body. Having regard to this, the court held that his act of causing the death of the deceased was done in the exercise of his right of private defense and was not in excess of that right. And then another case, the case of Li Tian Beng against the public prosecutor. In the case of Li Tian Beng against the public prosecutor, the appellant was charged for culpable homicide. In the case of Li Tian Beng against the public prosecutor, the appellant was charged with culpable homicide not amounting to murder. So in this case, he was a chief inspector of police. Now they no longer have this position, I believe. They used to have this position, this rank, chief inspector, ketua inspector. He was a chief inspector of police, but was off duty, was not on duty. So he was wearing his layman clothes, normal clothes, ordinary clothes, not uniform, not in his uniform. So the assailant, the victim, did not know that he was a police officer. He was a chief police inspector, but was not on duty. He was off duty. He was not wearing his uniform at the time of the offense. The appellant did not introduce himself as a police inspector, as a police officer during the quarrel with the deceased. They quarrel. In this case, they were in, I think, were in a pub. The court held that they were in a pub, and then the police inspector, the chief police inspector, was drinking with his friends, and that he quarreled with the deceased. And then the deceased pull out his pistol and shoot into shoot into the air, and then he immediately killed the deceased. He immediately killed the deceased. But in this case, the court held that even though that the deceased fired a shot into the air, that the deceased was still within his right of private defense of the body, because he was being threatened by the police officer, and he did not know that that person was a police officer. So when the police officer killed him immediately, so that the court held that he had exceeded his right of private defense. Why? Because in this case, the court held that use of force, that the shot onto the face of the victim, was not necessary, as what the accused need to do was only introduce himself as a police officer, and that would stop the argument. So the act of appellant using his gun in the face of the deceased was not the right of private defense. So the court held that when he shot onto the face of the victim, killing the victim immediately, he had exceeded his right of private defense. So he was not allowed the right of defense of the body to the extent of killing another person. So do you have any question up until this stage? Any question, anything that you want to ask?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, let's continue. The limit of the right of private defense. Limit of the right of private defense. The right of private defense should not be converted into the right of reprisal. So this is a right to defend himself, to defend the body or the property of himself or another person. It's not the right of reprisal. It's not the right to of revenge. It is not the right of revenge. This was held in the case of public prosecutor against Abdul Manap. So in this case, the court held that when he used his right of private defense more of a revenge. The court held that it was not. He had no right to exercise right of private defense in that situation. And then another case, the right of private defense cease or stop when there is no more apprehension of the danger to the body or life. For example, I've informed you earlier today, when a person trying to attack with a parang, for example, and then that person, let's say the victim pulls out his gun, his pistol, for example, and that person is scared and then throw his parang away. So in that situation, the right of defense of the body also stop, because the danger to the body also stop. In the case of Nga Chit Tin against the king, the court held that the right of private defense is not exercised at the time when, as soon as the assailant had left the hut, the danger dominating the accused was over. Now let's move on to the right of private defense of the property. We have finished off with the right of private defense of the body. So now let's continue with the right of private defense of the property. So the right of private defense of the property is provided under section 97, paragraph B of the Penal Code. If you look at section 97, paragraph B of the Penal Code, every person has a right, subject to the restrictions contained in section 99, to defend, under paragraph B, the property. This is the right to defend the property. And that property can be movable or immovable. Movable, for example, a car, motorcycle, laptop, handphone, iPhone, or immovable. Immovable, for example, his house, his land, for example, of himself or any other person. His property, for example, his car, his motorcycle, or any other person. His father's car, his father's land, his father's motorcycle, or even a stranger's motorcycles. Let's say he sees someone trying to steal a motorcycle in the parking lot, for example, and then he attack that person in order to stop that person from stealing that motorcycle. That is allowed under the law. Against any act which is an offense falling under the definition of theft, robbery, someone trying to steal, robbery, or mischief, someone trying to cause mischief to his property, or criminal trespass, someone trespassing into his property, or attempt to commit those offenses. So it is also subject to the restrictions in section 99. It is also subject to the restrictions in section 99, meaning similar restrictions that we have already discussed last week. For example, against a public servant acting within his authority, or under the order of a public servant, or if he has time to recourse to the authorities. All these things also applicable to the right of private defense of the property, meaning it is subject to those restrictions. For example, let's say that person is trying to seize his property, is a public servant exercising his duty under the color of his office. So if that is the case, then he is not, he has no power to exercise his right of private defense of the property, though the public servant may have made a mistake, as long as he has done it within his authority. Okay, and section 103 provides the situation where that person may exercise his right of private defense of the property to the extent of causing death, meaning that in order to protect his property, he may also, in certain restricted situations, he may go to the extent of killing the assailant. He may go to the extent of killing the person trying to take his property, trying to force take his property. So what are those situations? Okay, this is provided under section 103 of the Penal Code. Let's look at section 103 of the Penal Code. Okay. When the right of private defense of the property extends to causing death, the right of private defense of the property extends under the restrictions mentioned in section 99 to the voluntary causing of death or of any other harm to the wrongdoer if the offense, the committee of which or attempting to commit which occasions the exercise of the right is an offense of any of the following descriptions. A. Robbery. If it is a robbery. Robbery generally, robbery is theft or extortion, whereby the violence is being used. This is, of course, there are specific definition that we will learn next semester, inshallah. But generally, it is theft whereby violence is being used. For example, in trying to steal the victim's property, he threatened the victim with a parang, for example. So that is known as robbery. That is theft, but it has become robbery. So if that is the case, you may go to the extent of killing the robber. F, house breaking by night. Someone breaking into his house at night. Breaking into his house, for example, he tried to enter the house of the victim through the window, for example. He break the window and then tried to enter through the window at night. That is house breaking by night. And let's say, if that is the case, if someone break open his window trying to enter his house at night, and then he use a parang and then slash onto the victim, killing that victim, that is allowed under the law. That is allowed under the law. House breaking by night. C, mischief by fire committed on any building, tent or vessel, which building, tent or vessel is used as a human dwelling or as a place for the custody of property. Someone trying to burn his property. That is mischief by fire. Someone trying to burn his property. If that property is used as a human dwelling, meaning that people living there, or as a place for the custody of property, he keeps his property in that building. If that is the case, you may go to the extent of killing the arsonist, the person trying to burn his property. D, theft, mischief, or house trespass. Under such circumstances as may reasonably cause apprehension that death or grievous hurt will be the consequence. If such right of private defense is not exercised, someone trespassing into his house, entering his house, and with him is a parang, for example. Let's say he brings with him a parang, he enters the house and he brings with him a parang, and he's a stranger. So the apprehension by the victim is that that person may he apprehend that death or grievous hurt will be the consequence if he doesn't stop that person. So that is allowed under these circumstances, under these situations. He may go to the extent of killing the person, what we call trying to steal or trying to harm or trying to cause injury to his property. There must be a reasonable apprehension of danger against the property, and there must be something more than a mere threat, and it must be a threat which is so imminent as to amount to an attempt to commit offense. That is for property, danger to the property. It must be a real threat, not merely a verbal threat whereby there is no apprehension that the danger is real. If it's merely threatening but the danger is not real, he may not have the right of private defense of the property to the extent of causing death. And this can be seen in the case of Muhammad Rafi against Emperor. But the threat must be real. What is real threat? This can be seen in the case of Muhammad Rafi against Emperor. Let's look at this case. In the case of Muhammad Rafi against Emperor, The deceased and other persons approach the accused house. The deceased and other persons approach the accused house, shouting out threats of setting up fire to the house. So this burning of the house is mischief by fire. Mischief by fire, he may go to the extent of killing another person. But however, if you look at this case, the court said that no. Even though it was mischief by fire, he did not have the right to the extent, he did not have the right of private defense of the property to the extent of killing another person. Why? Let's look at this case here. If you look at the private defense of the property just now, one of the situations that mischief by fire, kan? Not C, mischief by fire, committed on any building which is used as a human dwelling. But in this case, the court held that the accused was not entitled to use the right of private defense against the property to the extent of causing death. Why? Because the threat was not so imminent, as there was no evidence that any member of the party had made preparations to carry on the threat in carrying the inflammable materials or an attempt to set the fire. However, the accused was entitled to the right of defense of the body. So in this case, the court held that he was not allowed the private defense of the property to the extent of causing death. Why? Because the threat was not real. Why was the threat not real? Because the threat was to burn the house. But the victim did not bring with him any inflammable material. He did not bring with him petrol, for example, or gasoline, for example, or turpentine, for example, and he did not bring with him a torch, for example, or lighter. So the threat was not imminent, even though the threat was to burn the house. Therefore, the court held that he had the right of private defense, but not to the extent of killing another person. The scope of the right of private defense to the property, it is provided under section 105, where the right of private defense of property exists and continues it is provided by section 105, where the right of private defense of property exists and continues for theft cases till the offender has effected his retreat with the property. What is affected his retreat with the property? Meaning that he has been able to run away with the property. Once he has been able to run away with the property, for example, he has brought that property home, the person being where his property has been stolen has no right to go into the house of the thief and take back his property. That is not his right. He cannot do so. What should he do then? He should go to the authorities. He should go to the police station, make a police report, and then the police should go into that person's house to take that property, not for him to do that. So that is why for theft cases, till the offender has effected his retreat. Once the offender has been able to run away with the property successfully to his house or to his place, then the victim, the victim has no right to attack, to attack or to take back the property personally from the thief, or till the assistance of public authorities is obtained. Once he has made a police report, then or he has gone to the police station, and then it is the police that should take action against the other person. It's not for him to take the law into his own hands. Until the property has been recovered. If let's say the thief throws away the property, let's say he steals the handbag of the victim and then he throws away the handbag, so the victim has already got back his handbag or her handbag, then the right of private defense of the property has also stopped. You should not go and then attack the victim, the thief. He has no right to do so. For robbery case, continues the right of defense of the property continues as long as the offender causes or attempts to cause to any person death or hurt or wrongful restraint, or as long as the fear of instant death or instant hurt or of instant personal restraint continues. For criminal trespass or mischief cases, continues as long as the offender continues in the commission of criminal trespass or mischief. For housebreaking by night, continues as long as trespass which has been begun by such housebreaking continues. So once that has stopped, then the right of private defense of the property also, to the extent of causing death, is also stopped. The private defense against theft, this is stated under section 105, subsection 2 of the Penal Code. The right against theft continues until the offender A has effected his retreat with the property, meaning that he has been able to run away with the property, till the assistance of the public authorities is obtained. The public authorities, he has already been able to seek the help of the authorities, for example, of the police officer, or till the property has been recovered. He has been able to get back his property. So the right of private defense against theft also stopped. Affected his retreat with the property, it can be said that the offender can probably be said to have affected his retreat with the property when he has once got clear of having escaped immediate pursuit or pursuit not having been made. This was held in the case of Punjab Rao against King Emperor. Meaning that the thief has been able to run away with the property. He has been able to take that property back to his house, for example. So if that is the case, the right of private defense of the property has stopped. Dia dah berjaya melarikan barangan tersebut sehingga ke rumahnya atau sehingga ke tempatnya. Because this is the right of private defense of the property, not the right to take the law into his own hands. However, if the thief runs away, leaving the property behind, the right of private defense against the property will also come to an end. If the property runs away, leaving the property behind, the right of private defense against the property will also come to an end. The owner is not justified in pursuing him and assaulting him, meaning that once he has thrown away the property, the right of private defense of the property also stop. He should not, the owner of the property should not go and attack the thief. This is not his right to attack the thief. And in Amar Singh against the state of Rajasthan, a camel camel belonging to the complainant was stolen. The footprints were traced to the accused's house. The complainant tried to catch hold of the camel, which was being ridden by the accused. The court held that the right has come to an end when the offender has finally succeeded in finding ways to escape from the hot chaser, from the person trying to chase him. It can be taken that the offender has affected his retreat and the ride has stopped because he has been able to run away with the camel. So once he had brought home the camel, the right of private defense of the property stopped. Then what should the complainant do? The complainant should go to the police station, make a police report, and the police should take action or should investigate that matter. Not for him to go into the house of the thief and then trying to get back his stolen camel. Assistance of public authorities obtained in Kabiruddin against Emperor. It was decided that in Kabiruddin against Emperor, in the Kabiruddin against Emperor, it was decided that where a person prefers to use force to protect his property, but he has the opportunity to recourse to the public authorities, he should be made liable for causing the harm. If let's say he is able to go to the public authorities to make a police report, but he take the law into his own hands, he should be made liable for causing the harm. He should be criminally liable for that because it is not the right to take the law into his own hands. It is the right to protect his property. In the case of Punjab Rao against King Emperor, the court held that the accused was not entitled to the right of defense against the property since he had a chance to seek the assistance of the public authorities. Since he can go to the public authorities, he should not take the law into his own hands. The property is recovered. The property is recovered. If let's say the property is recovered, then the right of private defense of the property also stops. It is dependent on the first condition, which is the offender has affected his retreat. The right of accused has ceased or has stopped when the property has been recovered and the offender has affected his retreat. In Jarha, Chamar, and Suritram, the court held that the complainant had no right to forcibly take possession of the camel when the accused had reached his home with the stolen property. So the right of defense of the property stopped once the thief has been able to run away with the property. So that's all under the right of private defense of the body and also the property. So do you have any question, anything that you want to ask?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, if you don't have any question, we stop now. Yeah, I'll see you next week, inshallah. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.